touches without CC on the floor because those two connect at such a high clip. The last thing I'll say, Lisa, is you spoke to the physical, journey that she's getting ready to go through, but the mental one is, to me, the most important. Seeing the frustration tears at the end of the last game when it looked like she re-aggravated that injury. This is a player that hadn't missed 10 games in 10 years before this season. And so
without Caitlin Clark, Fever suffered deflating loss to Liberty despite lineup change. Indiana's 3-game win streak came to an end Wednesday night at Barclays Center as the New York Liberty handed the Fever a deflating 98-77 loss. The Fever, who took a step back in their hope of finding some consistency, were also without Caitlin Clark as she suffered another muscle injury Tuesday. Now 12-11, the Fever will now have 6 days off because of the All-Star break, which is hosted in Indianapolis. Here are 3 observations. Liberty control from first quarter on. It was never much of a game, and that could have been for a multitude of reasons. Indiana was on the second night of a back-to-back, unexpectedly down their star point guard on a day's notice, and had barely any time to prep for the reigning champions. And that turned into a wire-to-wire, dominant Liberty win. New York built its lead methodically throughout the first half, leading by 8 points after the first quarter and by 15 at halftime. The Liberty shot a scorching 58% from the field in the first half, compared to Indiana's 32%. Most of the time, teams will cool down after a first half of shooting like that, but the Liberty kept their foot on the gas all 4 quarters, finishing the game by shooting 57.8% from the field. Caitlin Clark sits out with new injury. Clark missed her 10th game of the season, 11th if you count the Commissioner's Cup final, after suffering a right groin injury on Tuesday against the Connecticut Sun. Clark was in visible discomfort with about 30 seconds left in the game on Tuesday, grabbing near her groin area and walking off the floor in tears. It's her 4th separate muscle injury of the season, which includes 2 quad injuries and a left groin injury. Clark was listed as questionable for the game, but she was downgraded to out after she got imaging on her groin in New York on Wednesday afternoon. Fever coach Stephanie White still said she considered the MRI to be good news. "I consider it good news, just because for me, if it's anything that we're talking about day to day, it's always good news for me," White said. The Fever have not specified how long they expect Clark to be out. Indiana has 6 days off for the All-Star break in Indianapolis, then will return to New York on July 22nd for its next game. Indiana Fever makes second lineup change. Ari McDonald filled in for Clark, but the Fever coaching staff elected to make another change to the starting lineup as Sophie Cunningham got the start at the 3 over Lexi Hall. Cunningham has been impressive recently, finishing in double digits off the bench in each of the Fever's last 3 games. With Clark out, too, Cunningham can also take the ball up the floor. The Fever don't want to rely on her ball handling entirely, but it's something that she's able to do in a pinch if necessary. Video going viral how Caitlin Clark got injury. New angle shows J.C. Sheldon knee Caitlin Clark and groin.
That was Groin January, who is played 9 years in Indiana and now on the staff. And that's a live shot now of Caitlin Clark, who is still upset and wants an.
You're asking about Caitlin a lot. You bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
Can y'all see this right here? Look closely right there. That is a knee. J.C. Sheldon knee is fully extended. Her entire leg is off the floor, and it connects directly with Caitlin Clark's hand and groin. You don't need slow motion to catch that. It's clear as day. Caitlin grabs at her groin immediately. You can tell. She knows something's wrong. She's in pain. She goes up to the ref, trying to explain what just happened. But does he care? No. He brushes it off. And hold up. That's not the only angle. That was the broadcast view, but check this out. Here's a completely different shot, taken from a fan inside the arena. Watch this angle. You can see the impact even more clearly, right in real time. This is an accidental contact. This is a knee driving into a vulnerable spot, and Caitlin Clark is the one suffering again. Man, I don't even know how many more videos gotta be made, bro. Like, how many more times do we have to keep saying this? How many times do we have to yell, "Yo, speak up, speak out"? And for what? At this point, they don't even care. They don't care what we say. They don't care what we post. And they sure as hell don't care about Caitlin Clark. And that's the wildest part, man. She's the reason people are even tuning in. She's the reason the league's getting all these eyeballs. You'd think, like seriously, you'd think they would be doing everything to protect her. Like, where's the accountability? Where are the refs? Who's in charge here? Why does it feel like Caitlin's out there by herself, game after game, with nobody stepping in? Anyway, they just finished setting up the court for the All-Star weekend in Indy. Yeah, it just dropped like a minute ago. Court looks clean, yeah. But it's hard to even enjoy that right now, man. Because the word going around, Caitlin's hurt. And not just a little tweak, I'm talking bad. Like real bad. Worse than before. Groin area. Might even be a tear, man. I hate to say that, but that's what I'm hearing. At this point, Kathy's gotta be held accountable. Like, we passed the point of excuses. And honestly, this is getting so out of control that even Adam Silver might have to step in. That's how wild it's getting.
Last night I watched, as I was watching the All-Star Game, I was on another TV, I was watching Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. So I've compared her to Michael Jordan, not stylistically, obviously, but in merchandise sales, kind of a dynastic TV rating changer. And in year one, like you just were like, wow, nobody plays like that. And then in year two, Michael Jordan got hurt. And then in year two for Caitlin Clark, she's getting banged up and hurt. Why did MJ always get hurt early? Because they were tackling him. Nobody knew how to stop him. And the WNBA officiating is just changed. Like it was always a physical league. Now it's insane. So last night she gets hurt again and she's in a shooting slump. And I think a lot of it is she's banged up in year two, like Michael Jordan. And Michael was fighting to come back, and she's fighting to come back, and she re-injured a groin. So she's still scoring and still a team leader and assists, but she's been banged up. And, you know, by the way, her brother went to social media last night. No lies told. Colin Clark said, make no mistake, this is on the reffing. And even Stephanie White, Fever coach, has noticed it. The officials are just letting a lot of stuff go that almost feels inappropriate. And so she's probably hurt again. And again, it has an MJ feel. Rocket to the moon, year two, a lot of physicality allowed, injuries. Nobody quite knows how to defend her. The Pistons are picking on, the Celtics are picking on MJ, who's dropping 50, and Caitlin Clark now is alienating some of the players. And Hollywood knows how to handle stars. There's a playbook. But I noticed this when Tiger Woods came to the PGA Tour at the first, or Caitlin Clark, a little turbulence. They don't quite have a playbook on how to do it. And I think right now they need better officials.
Yeah, man. The WNBA seriously needs to get better officials. Like, this is getting out of hand. If the league keeps going like this, nobody's gonna wanna watch. Real talk, NBA fans are out here just laughing at WNBA games. Not because of the talent. We know the talent is there, but because of what these refs are doing. It's embarrassing. They're watching the officiating and saying, yo, is this even professional? That's the rep the league is starting to get, and that's dangerous. This ain't just about missed calls anymore. It's about player safety, it's about respect, and it's about accountability. Especially when the league has someone like Caitlin Clark putting it on her back. But hey, y'all get down in the comments section. Let us know what you think about all this. And don't forget, like the video, subscribe, and stay locked in for daily updates.
Just how is Caitlin feeling, and how were the evaluations today, and what more can you say about her diagnosis?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just trying to keep her in good spirits. Had a lot of setbacks with all these little injuries, and we just have to take it one day at a time. It's frustrating for her, I'm sure, especially, and I think, for us as a staff and as a team, just trying to keep her encouraged and trying to keep her to stay the course.
Hey, Steph.
What's up, Doug?
Can you give any specifics of, did she have imaging today? Was it just see how she's feeling? And I know you have a game tonight first, but is there any discussion yet about this weekend with her? Because obviously she's a huge part of All-Star.
No discussion yet about this weekend. There was imaging done, and obviously ruling her out for tonight, but there hasn't been any discussion beyond tonight.
And Steph, just obviously to that point, when it's a re-injury, when you're trying to figure this stuff out within the context of the goals you guys have set over the long term, does the timetable change? Or maybe you're having a conversation with doctors, but there's also a sort of a larger understanding of having this happen a second time, a third time, that we have to think about this in terms of September, October as much as anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've approached it that way from a slow pace from the beginning. This might just be my ignorance, but I'm not really sure that it's a re-injury as much as a different kind of injury. I know oftentimes when you're working with injuries in the groin and the quad and the hamstring and all of those things, there's just they're all kind of tied together, and it's not always just one thing. So I think yes, absolutely, the big picture is the most important. For her health and wellness long term, and for our team, and to we've been very slow in making sure that every time she comes back that she's ready. So we'll continue to approach it like that. I mean, long term is the most important. And
just in terms of on the court impact, we talked to Sandy a little bit about the things that you guys have learned with Caitlin out, and watched a lot of film. Unfortunately, a lot of film they're able to see. What have you been able to see and learn about the Liberty playing without John Paul Jones, which is something they've had to do a lot of as well?
Yeah, I think there's just a different emphasis in how they play. The ball moves around the perimeter a little bit more. They have more versatility, so the actions that they run are a little bit different. They have a little bit more versatility on the defensive end of the floor. I always thought they were already a versatile team, on both ends. But playing small ball at times has its advantages, and I think that they've been able to find ways to continue to not just be dangerous, but really lethal, in these small lineups. The way that they're able to spread the floor, the way they're able to create driving lanes and driving kicks for threes, and you see them a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more disruptive in their switches on the defensive end.
Hey, Steph, Annie Costable, Front Office Sports. I know you said you haven't had a discussion about this weekend, but we obviously know, just based on what she said, how excited she was for this weekend. So what's the balance or what's the emphasis on long-term health over excitement over this weekend? What conversations have you had regarding that?
We haven't had any yet, honestly. The most important thing for me was just making sure that she was okay. Anybody who's been injured, as most of us have, right? It's being injured and continuing to have setbacks is frustrating. Mentally, emotionally, oftentimes being injured is isolating. So from my standpoint, the primary conversations that we've had last night and today are just checking in. Are you good? How can we help? We're going to continue to stay the course. We've got you. We're supporting you. Caitlin and her team will make decisions when it comes to All-Star. And for me, it's a big deal for us to have All-Star in Indianapolis. And of course, with Caitlin being a focal point of all of that. As the coach of the Indiana Fever, it's not a bigger deal than our long-term season. But it's also part of the fun. So those are conversations that Caitlin will have with her group. I probably won't be a part of those, but we're going to support her no matter what.
And then just quickly, listed as questionable earlier today. What changed regarding going from questionable to
just the imaging that she was able to get this afternoon?
Hi, Barbara Barker from Newsday. I just wanted to ask you, you went over very well, just how frustrating, and anyone who saw, the game last night was heartbreaking in a way. How much is the physicality that she has to face on a nightly basis? This is not a direct result of that, but having to face that all the time, how hard is that for her to deal with when an injury happens like
It is tough. Certainly someone who has the ball in her hands as much as Caitlin, the physicality that she's experiencing for 40 minutes, it causes you to load differently, causes you to explode differently, it causes you to accelerate and decelerate differently. It's not the free-flowing movement that we want to see when it comes to freedom of movement. And I think all of those things, at times, while it might not be one blow or another, over time can contribute to that. That's why freedom of movement is a huge emphasis from our coaches' standpoint when we have conversations at the league level. So can you point it out to one thing or the other? No, but I do think the physicality with which teams are able to play with her is a factor.
Steph, we've talked a lot about the rotations finally.
Yeah.
Well, we thought they were finally going to be kind of solidified, and then obviously now Caitlin's back out. So just over the last 24 hours, how have you guys as a group tried to just collect yourselves to be like, we've done this before, we can do it again? And what does that kind of look like going against the Liberty team that's really tough?
Yeah, I mean, I think our team has confidence in knowing that we have played and we have won without Caitlin on the floor. I think there's a different mentality sometimes where you're not always looking for her to make the play, and the ball moves a little bit differently at times. Everybody, I mean, it's not one person that's going to do what Caitlin does. I mean, regardless of making shots or not making shots, she makes everybody else's life easier. And so collectively, we have to be able to continue to put each other in positions to be successful. Certainly now with one guard out of the lineup, especially a primary ball handler, a shot creator, and a shot maker, it's an opportunity for someone else. We had 4 games that we were kind of getting back into a little bit of a groove. But this is the nature of sport. It's the nature of professional sport, especially. Everybody on this roster has earned the opportunity to play. Sometimes they don't get to because of the nature of the depth of our roster, and so they'll all be ready.
Peter Splendoria with New York Daily News. Just in terms of the imaging, just severity-wise, would you consider it good news, the results today?
You'd have to ask the athletic training staff. I mean, I consider it good news, just because, for me, it's anything that we're talking about still day to day is always good news for me. So, but that's a layman's viewpoint.
Hey, Coach. Caitlin was pretty emotional last night, probably the most we've seen so far. Can you speak to her mindset last night and sort of where she's at today?
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to speak for Caitlin, but again, someone who's continued to have setbacks from an injury standpoint, and as a former athlete who's had a lot of surgeries myself, it's very frustrating. You feel like you're trying to do everything that you can to put yourself in position to get past it or to move forward, and when there's a setback, it's emotionally, mentally and emotionally tough. And so, of course, she was upset. I think anybody in that position would be. You see it all throughout the course of history with athletes when they go through injuries, and especially multiple injuries back to back, just when you think you're starting to move the needle. So I think the most important thing for us is to keep her upbeat, to, again, continue to support her and let her know that we have her back and that we're going to go out, we're going to battle for her.